Raider Nation, what's going on? Today's show is presented by RexMD. Head on over to rexmd.com/chat because it is the #1 leader in men's telehealth. And I'm just going to be real with y'all. If sometimes you have a little bit of a hard time getting hard, RexMD is going to help you out. I'll tell you a little bit more about them coming up. All right, so what's going to be here on today's show? Josh Jacobs, is the franchise tag going to happen? Aaron Rodgers trade rumors, the latest around them, and then a wild Rodgers trade idea. I'll break it down. And then the latest Raiders news from today and over the weekend. So the reason why the top trending story here on this show and a lot of Raiders shows is because the NFL franchise tag window starts today, February 21st to March 7th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. If the Silver and Black were to tag their running back, it's going to cost them $10.1 million. And then I have said for a very long time, if the Raiders do this, you're hoping that they place the non-exclusive tag, which, yes, it means that other NFL teams can negotiate with Jacobs. However, if he were to get swept up by another team because the Raiders place the non-exclusive tag on him, then the Raiders get 2 first-round picks for Jacobs. I love Jacobs. He's the best running back in the NFL right now, but we got to be able to face the facts here. If you can get 2 first-round picks for a running back, I think it's the way to go, especially considering the fact of all the holes that this Raiders team has on both sides of the football. So one of the topics that's been going around is, should they do it? And I would say this. If you're Josh McDaniels and if you're Dave Ziegler and you're sitting up there right now and you're like, you know what? I'm pretty confident about my job. It could change the answer. But one of the things that I love about this show is I love how passionate you guys are. So here's my question to you. I want you to describe right now how hot either McDaniels and Ziegler seats are. You got to do it. And the best answer is going to get a shout out here on the show. So it doesn't have to be one word. It can be a sentence. It can be a few words. I want you to describe how hot McDaniels and Ziegler seats are right now. Best answer is going to get a shout out on the Raiders Report. My take is this. There's no doubt that their seats are hot. And I hope that we as Raider fans know what direction that this NFL team is going to go in. Dave Ziegler spoke, and he spoke today recently about his idea of where this team's going to go. I'm going to tell you all right now. Take whatever Dave Ziegler and basically anybody in that Raiders organization says with a grain of salt. I'm old enough to remember when Ziegler spoke in front of everyone and said, Josh McDaniels was doing a fantastic job or doing a great job when they were 2-5. If you're a team right now and let's say the Raiders are truly on the hot seat, you might want them to tag Jacobs. Like if they're like, hey man, if we lose in 2023, our ass is grass, we're getting fired, then you got to figure out a way to keep the best running back in the NFL. If they're confident that no matter what, they're going to have a job in 2024, then franchise tagging Jacobs really might not be the way that this organization decides to go. If you haven't already joined the Raiders Report family, take a second, hit the subscribe button, turn on those notifications because this is the time of the year where breaking news, it's going to happen. It's going to happen often, and we're going to do a lot of live shows around it. So when Jacobs is franchise tagged or isn't tagged, we're going to be live. So I really don't want you guys to miss it. In terms of how likely are the Raiders going to tag Jacobs, I'm going to give this one 2 just win babies, and I really do. I truly believe that it is a coin flip. And when I talk to some people around the league, there were a lot more people that thought it was a more sure thing, but recently I spoke with somebody, and he said that the Raiders could give him a more backloaded contract. So when you think about deals, right, and the deals that I want you to really keep in mind is a Davante Adams deal. But if, let's say, the Raiders say, you know what, no, we're not going to franchise tag Jacobs at 10.1. If you gave him a 3-year extension, and then you could backload it. So I believe an extension would come if the Raiders are more worried about staying in the win now circle. Because let's say you gave him a 3-year extension, but you only pay him $2 million, $3 million, $4 million in the first year, and then you backload the hell out of it, and who knows, you might even have an out clause like the Raiders have an out clause with Davante Adams. Because when you look at Davante Adams' cap numbers percent by hit, that's what they did. They put a little bit less value, and then they backloaded the shit out of it in case it didn't go the way that they wanted. So if the Raiders really, truly believe that, hey, man, I'm not going anywhere, we're good, this could really change the way that they end up either franchise tag him or giving them a contract extension and then really allowing them to backload it. It's going to be interesting no matter what, and I'm excited to see what the Raiders decide to do here. So again, y'all, today's show is presented by RexMD. We've had them on as a sponsor before, but guess what? Now they're back. If you haven't already, go to rexmd.com/chat. Fellas, do you sometimes lack confidence in the bedroom? Jeremy, I'm looking at you. We've all had those nights where we get too nervous or maybe had too much to drink. There's nothing worse than not being able to put the stick shift in driving when you need it the most. But have no fear, RexMD is here. Spreading cheer even when you've had maybe a few too many beers. RexMD is FDA approved and the most trusted leader in men's telehealth. They have sponsored the Raiders Report to help you always be prepared. RexMD has made it simple, easy, and cost-effective to help all the men out there last longer and feel more confident in the bedroom. RexMD makes getting generic and brand of Viagra or Cialis easy. Everything's online, even the prescription, and they deliver it discreetly to your door. No waiting rooms, no embarrassing trips to the doctor, no insurance, and no copays. Take advantage of their best deal they've ever offered and save up to 90% off and only pay $2 per dosage with an exclusive link. Go to rexmd.com/chat for this limited time deal. Starter packs of generic Viagra or Cialis are now available for our listeners to get started. That's rexmd.com/chat for up to 90% off. Coming up next here on the show, we're going to be looking at Rodgers' trade to the Raiders rumors. PFF released an article titled 5 Trades to Watch Out For in the 2023 NFL offseason. Part of my job here as a host of the Raiders Report is when there's news, I'll talk about it. When there's rumors, I'll give my reaction. When I see other articles out there around top trending topics, I want to be able to give my 2 cents. So I see Rodgers, Raiders, guess what? It's going to be on the show. And PFF believes that the Raiders are a prime-time landing spot, which I absolutely agree with. The Raiders are in an interesting situation because they have a win-now roster, at least on the offensive side of the football, and they have enough money and enough draft picks to get into that win-now mode. So if you believe that you can add an NFL MVP, would you chase the Super Bowl? I know, it's definitely very interesting. Rodgers also, though, could retire, or he could play for another season, likely with a new team. If so, hey, all I know is this. Rodgers, I don't think he's going to stay in Green Bay, and I do think the most likely landing spot is to the silver and black. So here's what PFF had to say on the Raiders trading for Aaron Rodgers. Realistically, Rodgers carries with him a 2-year, $108.8 million contract that would almost certainly be reworked again were he to play in 2025. That's looking very far down the road. A lot of people are going to look at that money and they're going to be like, man, this is a lot of money. And there's no doubt. It is a lot of money, but I am very confident if the Raiders decide to make a move for the 4-time NFL MVP, that the contract is going to be reworked. Here, continuing on with PFF on the Raiders trading for Rodgers, but the heavy early year cash flow, $54.4 million per year over the next 2 years, explains why the trade return he is arguably underwhelming. The prospect of Rodgers playing one season for $59.5 million and then retiring has to pause to any interested teams. So what they're essentially saying here is this. The reason why that there's been reports out there that the Raiders or any other NFL team might not have to give up that first-round pick is because the clauses in his contract where if he retires, and you're also taking him on at a very high terms of money. You can exercise the option, which then it puts it at 15.79. I'm just going to be real. The Aaron Rodgers contract is extremely, extremely confusing. So here we go, continuing on with PFF. There will surely be conversations between Rodgers and interested clubs about how long he plans on playing once he emerges from his darkness retreat. And there will be questions around drama surrounding his plans for the following seasons every year from this point forward. I've been doing this show and I've been a host here at Chat Sports for a very long time. The rumors around Aaron Rodgers every offseason, I'll be real, if he was a member of the Raiders, it would be very exhausting. But at the end of the day, this isn't quarterback-driven league, and if you think that you have an MVP caliber QB, sometimes you're worth to roll with all the drama. Continuing here with PFF, while the Packers had down 2022 season, Rodgers in 2020 and 2021 campaigns earned him back-to-back MVP honors for a reason. From 2020 to 2021, his 93.8 passer grade and 7.2 big-time throw rate led all quarterbacks. Guess what? During those 2 seasons, he had Davante Adams. If you put Davante back with Aaron Rodgers, you're crazy to think that it's not a possibility that he can be an MVP caliber again. Don't get me wrong, I get nervous about him and Josh McDaniels, but there's kind of a part of me that wants a QB to just once in a while say, hey, McDaniels, there's the bird. Also here with Rodgers, we're going to continue. His 2.0% turnover-worthy play rate on dropbacks was third lowest, and a 79.4% adjusted completion percentage, and 8.0 yards per attempt ranked third. Rodgers was good as he's ever been, generating as many positive plays as any quarterback, simultaneously limiting the negative ones. So, again, we're going to keep it rolling here with this quote on Rodgers PFF because I know there's a lot to digest and I know there's a lot to think about and look at. But we know this. If Rodgers wants to be a member of the Raiders, and I get what Dave Ziegler has said in the past, and I get that there's some people out there that don't think that this trade is going to happen. That's fine. I do think, though, it's a lot more likely to happen than not likely to happen. So this is the trade idea after reading all of that PFF threw together. They said that the Green Bay Packers would receive the number 7 overall pick and then a 2024 second-round conditional pick. That could become a first based on if Rodgers, how well he plays, how far the Raiders make it. So my question to you is this. After seeing all the contract breakdown, after seeing the connection that Rodgers and Davante Adams have had in the past, who wins this trade? Is it the Raiders or is it the Green Bay Packers? And what I think is a little bit funny about this trade idea is PFF says that they don't think that the Raiders are going to have to give up a lot in order to get them. What I would respond to PFF, and the reason why sometimes I talk about this is because there are other people out there, media outlets, whoever, that talk about the Raiders. I'm going to be real. They do not know the Raiders the way that I personally do. And to be frank, the way that a lot of these content creators here on YouTube know them. Why? Because your job, or what you do literally every single day, is to talk about this team. So when they say on one hand, it's not going to cost that much, and then they give me a trade idea that I got to give up the 7th and then potentially another first-round pick, that just tells me they're not doing their homework. That just tells me that they're not really following this entire situation around the Raiders, because if you're going to say it's not going to cost that much, and then there's reports out there that the Raiders don't even have to give up a first-round pick potentially to get Rodgers, then why are you giving up almost 2 first-rounders? So I'm going to be real. From the people that I talk to, I do not think that you're going to have to give up a first-round pick in order to get number 12 here in the silver and black. So because of that, the trade that PFF proposed there, I'm sorry, it's a big, fat L. Coming up next here on the show, the Raiders. They're meeting with a rookie quarterback. We're also going to get into even some more rumors a little bit later on at the end of the show. So the QB that the Raiders apparently have met with is Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker. And the amount of jokes that could come around this, it's a lot, man. There's a lot that you can go with, right? Another Hooker in Las Vegas, coming off a pretty impressive year where he had over 3,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 27 TDs, 2 INTs. Of course, he had a 69.6% completion percentage. I mean, that's literally only fitting. I will say this, though, to the 1,100 people tuned into our live show. If you want to learn a little bit more about Hendon Hooker and where I think he ranks among all the 2023 NFL quarterbacks that would be a fit for the silver and black, that would be a good fit with Josh McDaniels, go check out this video. I put it out on, I want to say Monday. So, yeah, I put it out yesterday. And we put out now basically 2 videos almost every single day. So if you haven't checked it out, Hooker is on the list. My question to you is, where exactly does he fall in my top 10? In terms of other teams that met with Hooker, we were really careful. We were really, really careful with the title on this one. It was Hooker meetings. Jeremy is down in the comments saying Rex MD. There's probably, actually, I don't even know. Hookers in all these cities? Probably definitely Vegas, but rexmd.com/chat. So he did meet, though, with 5 other teams, and the wording on the report that came out was he, really had a good meeting with all 5 of these teams. So the Raiders, the Panthers, the Giants, Saints, and Cowboys. I think out of these teams right now, the ones that are the most peculiar to me are obviously Raiders, Panthers, and Saints. But I know that there's some people out there that want the Raiders to take a QB high. To me, I'm not taking Hooker in round 1. I'm not taking him in round 2 either. Sorry. He's more of a 3rd, 4th round option to me because he's 25 years old, which, again, is older than Lamar Jackson in terms of how old he is. And he's coming off an ACL. Yes, there was a report out there that he's going to be all right for training camp. I don't know how much I buy into that. I think it's a little bit more of smoke and mirrors, his camp trying to hype him up a little bit, try to get that draft stock up. I just think if you take Hendon Hooker, you're essentially taking a 25-year-old quarterback who you're not really going to get to see play until he's 26 years old. So it's a big investment when you know you can get people who are 4 years younger than that. Next thing up here on the show is the Raiders, well, they fired another coach this offseason, and they have not been afraid to clean house. And I think they've done an interesting job of creating scapegoats this offseason, and you can look at that many different ways. But over the weekend, the Raiders, they fired defensive line coach Frank Okam, and I had a few people ask me about it, but like I said before, I'll be real with y'all. I was hanging out with my best friends from home, and I had my birthday weekend. My dad was in town, so I really tried to stay low-key and give all my concentration to them since I haven't seen them in a while. So I figured, all right, let's talk about it now. In terms of, was it the right thing to do? The answer to that question is yes. It was the right thing to do to move on from Okam. And whether people want to point the finger at Patrick Graham, the defensive line was bad. Is that all on Frank? Maybe, maybe not. I do know this, though. The Raiders, they had 27 sacks. But the Raiders have had a problem getting after the quarterback since I have been doing this show. It's been for a quite long time. And then you got 27 sacks, and 12 and a half of them are from Max Crosby, so 46.3 of them are from 98. Yeah, something's got to give. Chandler Jones needs to play better. Your defensive tackles need to play better. I'm hoping with some of the money that you have in free agency, we can finally sit up here on this show and be like, you know what? This is a good Raiders defense. And I believe the way that starts is it starts up front. So I'm definitely going to be pretty curious to see who the Raiders decide to hire as their next defensive line coach. Before I wrap up today's show, I do want to say thank you to every single one of y'all that took time out of your day to share an Instagram story, that tuned into the show on Friday with my dad, to the people who sent me text messages, who sent in super chats saying happy birthday. I love my job here. I love hanging out with y'all. And it's a really cool feeling to know that people care about your birthday, especially when you've never actually shaken their hand. Also, a huge special shout out to Alan Rader, because on his Friday show, he sent in $100 and a $200 super chat, and my dad is still talking about how him and I screamed bang on the show. If you haven't seen it, it's on my Instagram, at Mitchell Renz 365. So to the nation out there, I appreciate the hell out of y'all, and I just want you to know that.